and welcome.
Hi,
Uh,
thank you.
yes, we have Pam with us. She is a former workshop participant and a family caregiver. We are going live this evening to share her story, some tips that are really not talked about in caregiving. And if you're curious about the workshop that we're hosting next week, it's called The Three Key Dementia Do's and Don'ts. It's all about the top three most common mistakes that caregivers make. Uh, so if you're curious about what that might look like, this is a good thing to watch as well. So again, that's starting April 22nd and it goes through the 24th. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern or 6:30 Central time zones. So Pam, anyways, welcome. Introduce yourself and share who you're caregiving for.
Hi, I'm Pam Holm, and my sister and my father and I are caregiving for my mom.
Awesome. Awesome. So what would you say is the biggest challenge that you faced before you found the workshop, and how did facing that challenge, like, on your own as just like a small family unit, like, how did that feel?
Well, we had several issues. She has sundowners.
Mm,
Uh, and so one of the big issues was taking a shower and brushing her teeth and combing her hair. And um, so from the workshop, we had learned that if you warm up the house, warm up the bathroom, warm up the water first, and all that kind of stuff, and make it more of a spa like event, then maybe that would work. And it did. We're
yay.
grateful that one time that was what caused her to want to go ahead and take a shower. My sister took a shower first and said, "Oh, wow, these people," because my mom always seems to think that we're at a hotel or at somebody else's house staying. And so my sister took a shower and said, "Oh, these people have a really nice bathroom and the towels are really fluffy and soft. You know, hey, how about if you get in too and take a shower?" And she was like, "Okay." So we made it kind of more of a spa type event.
That's
And
awesome.
she was down for that.
That's yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So I'm curious, I guess, going back to how it felt. So like how did it feel for you guys to just be trying to figure this out on your own? Like most caregivers kind of feel like thrown into this. Like how did you guys feel?
Um, exactly like that, thrown into
Mm.
it. Um, every day's a new day, every day's a new experience. You never really know what that day is going to bring and whether the suggestions that you bring up are actually going to work or not.
Mm.
And so, having like all the little suggestions and tips that you give helped us be able to each day say, okay, well, if this one isn't going to work, we at least have some other backup items or thoughts that we can try, because if you wait 10 minutes, it's like a whole new event. So,
Yeah.
you can try again. It gives you an opportunity to give it another shot. So, um, having all those little different ways, different things to say or do really helped us a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, how did it feel afterwards for you guys to have a few wins under your belt? I know you talked about how you guys are struggling with getting mom to shower and telling her that it was a spa uh, helped her finally do it. Like, how did that feel for you guys to get that win?
Oh, it was like a big win. We were texting everybody, "Hey, we finally got her to take a shower." Um, and, and brushing her teeth, you put the toothpaste on for her, or when I'm there, sometimes I'm like, "Okay, well, it's time for us to brush our teeth." My parents have double sinks in their bathroom, and so if I can get her to brush her teeth the same time I'm brushing my teeth, then, you know, that's a win. We kind of look at it as every little step that we can get her to do something, it's a win for all of us. So,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, so I'm curious, I know the topic of our talk is some tips that folks don't really talk about. So I'm curious, I guess, what are some things that caregivers don't really talk about? Because I think why it's so important to talk about these things is that it's really easy to feel like our family or I'm the only one who's dealing with this, with my person with dementia, and when you get into a place like our workshop that had I think that first day we had, like, over 1,000 participants,
Mhm.
there, makes you realize, "Whoa,
Yeah.
I'm not alone." Like, I'm curious, like, what did it feel like to see that many people there?
It was kind of crazy. Is that many people were going through this, and then the more research that you do, you finally understand that you're not alone. There's a lot of people going through this, and you think of it as something that only older people go through, and then the more
Mm,
people you talk to, you start finding out, that they're younger and younger than you actually had anticipated. And it's everybody's, of course, got their own journey, but it's kind of comforting to know that you do have somebody out there that you can reach out to you know, just to complain to over something, and they understand and they're not trying to fix it for you. Just so you can complain and get it off your chest and make yourself feel better, and or complain to each other about the troubles that you're having or something. It actually does help a lot, and I don't think that people utilize that enough because nobody wants to burden anybody. My dad took on a lot of the struggle all on his own because he didn't want to burden, his daughters with it, when in reality, if you don't tell other people, they don't know, and then they don't help you, or they don't know how to help you if you don't just ask. And
yeah. Yeah,
so
that's a huge tip and honestly a huge mistake I see people making over and over and over again, which is if you even have an inkling your person has dementia, or maybe you got an early diagnosis, they're in early stages, it's so important to start building up that community and reaching out for help as early as you can. Because I'm sure you can attest to this, Pam, when you're in the thick of it, it's so much harder to even have the brain power to think about who should I ask? What task should I give them?
yeah, and with my mom with sundowners, um, she starts getting agitated. It used to be like 4 o'clock, and now it's starting to get a little earlier and a little earlier. And, um, it's like, what are we having for dinner? What do we need to make? What are we making for dinner and stuff? And it's, over and over and over. And so we keep trying to push it out a little bit because, cooking dinner at 2 o'clock is kind of hard, but because when she starts making a salad or anything like that, then she thinks we're gonna eat. And so, which isn't a bad thing to, eat early or whatever, but then later on, she starts getting cranky around 9 o'clock or something, and she's like, "Well, when are we gonna eat? And you haven't fed me dinner yet." And it's like, "Okay, well, if you're hungry, we can, get something then too," which is fine. But, she just starts getting more, I don't know, crabby. We call it the witching hour
Mm,
because trying to keep up with what her brain is thinking at that time. And then we've noticed too that if you let her sleep too much in the daytime, then of course she doesn't sleep at night, and
mm,
then has all these weird dreams at night, and she talks constantly in her sleep then, and nobody gets any sleep. So, um,
yeah, fair.
you try and keep her awake as much as possible because with it sundowning, I don't know, it's kinda like they start getting really tired and they wanna take a nap, and so
Yeah.
that makes it difficult too.
Yeah, I'd be curious for those who are watching live or watching the replay a little bit later. Um, if you guys know or have experienced sundowners, in case we don't know what that sundowning is a way to describe dementia symptoms getting worse as the day goes on. I'd almost think of it as like their brain getting tired. throughout the day. So that's definitely a good description that you gave, Pam, for sure. Uh, and whether it has to do with circadian rhythm, whether it has to do with sunlight, I mean, there's all kinds of different hypotheses for why it happens. I think it's different for each person, but yeah, generally it looks like a lot of anxiety, like a lot of agitation, just like amping up of symptoms for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. They they know that there's something that they would have usually been doing at that time, kind of.
Mm. Yeah.
Uh, like my dad had a job where he'd come home around, 5 o'clock. And so we always had dinner, shortly after that. So at 4 o'clock, it's locked into her brain that around 4 o'clock, she needs to be doing something, which means we need to be doing dinner and, or at least starting dinner. And so it seems like it's almost an anxious kind of feeling. Like she needs to get this going. She needs to get it done because at 5 o'clock something's happening. We're gonna have
Mm.
dinner. So
Mm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, like she has all this stuff to do for sure. Yeah, so I'm curious, how does it feel now post workshop when it comes to showering, sundowning, all this type of stuff to now have some tools in your toolbox to understand that you guys aren't the only ones going through this? Like how has it been for you guys since then?
better. Um, the learning to redirect questions, and I think now too, it's just one of those things where it's what are we having for dinner? And then you tell her. And
Mm.
what are we having for dinner? And then you tell her. What are we having for dinner? And then, you finally just go, "Hey, you know what? Let's have this for dinner." And she'll go, "Okay." And then it's kind of like she'll forget it for a little while. And then after, I don't know, 15 minutes or so, we get back to the questions again. And I just kind of try and put it off a little bit. So then it's like, okay, well, this is what what do you think? Should we have this for dinner? And she'll be like, yeah, that sounds good. And it's like, okay, well, maybe, you can make a salad too. And we'll have that with it. Does that sound good to you? And she'll be like, yeah. And so then we try and start getting some activities going to start prepping the salad or start prepping whatever it is. So,
Yeah, and I loved how you broadened what activity means as far because I think when a lot of people hear activity, they think bingo, they think puzzles, they think that type of stuff, and it's true. Like it really doesn't have it could be as simple as just including them in the stuff that you're doing. And I know that's definitely a big thing we learn in the workshop as well as to how to expand that definition. So that's a great tip. It's a great tip for sure.
yeah, because she likes chopping everything up for the salad. And, you have to watch her to not do too many tomatoes or too many, whatever. But she's pretty good about saying, is this enough or is this too much? Or, what do you think? Kind of thing. So, and then you have to remind her because she's like, well, how many people, am I making this salad for? And stuff like that. And then we have her get the dishes out, even though we don't need to set the table. But if she can get the dishes out and just have some little activities to try and keep her busy, and keep her mind off of everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, it's my opinion that I think there's too many caregivers out there who think to themselves, I have to keep them entertained all day long, when really what they want is to just be a part of what you're doing. They just want to be a part of it, or they want to contribute
Yeah.
in a way that makes them feel successful. So yeah, I think you guys are doing an excellent job when it comes to all of that. Yeah, I'm curious too, I guess steering this a little bit back to the workshop a little bit for those who are curious about that. What did you think about the role plays? Because that's one of like the main aspects of the workshop is that I get volunteers to come up and help me do a demonstration based off of whatever challenging behavior they're going through, whether it be showering or sundowning or what have you. Like, what were your thoughts on that?
To be honest, I loved the role play because it gave you as the watcher a different view of what somebody else was talking about. So, like when you asked, or you started the question in your role play, and then the other participant, obviously, they're going off of what their experiences with the person that they're caregiving for, and so it kind of gave everybody an idea as to what everybody else's situation looks like because everyone's situation is completely different. And so I think that really kind of helps you understand that there's no total right and there's no total wrong. There's just kind of sometimes getting by during the day and knowing that it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and if you guys are curious, I saw some hearts come up about the workshop. You can sign up at dementiasuccesspath.com. So it's the same name as this YouTube channel, just with .com at the end. Signups are still going on. We're starting next Tuesday, April 22nd at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, day one of our 3-day workshop. If you're like, oh God, I can't make one of those days, no worries. We have replays that come when you sign up. We also have printable resources and guides, and we also have some cool prizes this year too. That's not something we had in the last workshop with you, but since then we've been able to uh, get some companies that create caregiving stuff. Like I know this company, Memory Board, is giving away a free memory board for us. Jelly Drops is giving away Jelly Drops, which is these like gelatin things that help hydrate your person if they are refusing to drink enough fluids. That's a solution that we're giving away. So, anyways, that's just an aside. So, I'm curious. Was there anything that was like giving you pause to signing up for the workshop when you first like found out about it?
No, not really. I mean,
Okay.
uh, you know, 3 days, because I did the 3-day one. And at first I was thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do three days in a row, to
Mm,
do the whatever.
that's
But
fair.
it was the best, thing to do really, because with the tips and tricks and ideas, um, and I think the talking about things that are coming up, because it's not just about the not taking a shower, it's the not eating, it's the not drinking enough water, it's the not, and it kind of helps, because we're not all in the same space at the same time, and so it kind of helps you foresee maybe some things that are coming up in your direction if your
Yeah.
person as far along as maybe somebody else's is. And so it just reminds you that there's so many more people out there who are in the same situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I know we were talking about earlier as well that if like it's so easy to think to yourself, well, they're not that bad right now. I don't think I need to spend the time. The time to spend is when they're in the early stages. That's like the very best time. Like cuz you have the time. Like I know it's I've talked to several people where they say coming to the workshop can almost feel like pushing themselves out of like denial that it's happening. But here's the truth. At this point, all of us are either currently caregiving or we're future caregivers. Most of us are going to probably be caregivers at some point in our lives. So even if you're thinking maybe it's dementia, maybe it's not, it's still good to check it
Mhm.
out, get some like tools in your toolbox, get some resources, even if it's just in case it might be happening. Like it's so important. Um Man, I know we talk about too on day 3 as well, the importance of getting things legally in order as well. Like, I'm curious, have you and your family gotten things like legally in order? And when I say that, it's getting power of attorney, it's making sure you have medical decision making power, financial making power.
We do.
Good.
My parents did put together a living will, and so we have the power of attorney all set up. They've got it with their doctor's office at the hospital. We're on their bank account, so if push comes to shove, we've got access to that. We've managed to get everything taken care of. So we were actually on that kind of early. So
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
yeah,
Yeah, just because I see so many people who get themselves in a pickle by
yeah.
not, and granted, if your person is in middle stages, and if anybody's like, "What are the stages? What does that mean?" Typically, that's talking about, the, global deterioration scale. It's stages 1 through 7. Usually, that's what most people are talking about when they say the stages. It's the 7 stages of Alzheimer's. But if really, I think of it more as like, are you at the beginning of your journey? Are you in the middle of the journey? Are you at the end of your journey? Is
Mhm.
probably an easier way to think of it. Uh, there are some people who, towards the middle of their dementia journey, will look into that type of stuff. But man, you're just going through a way more uphill battle. So we get into all that type of stuff at the workshop between like the nitty gritty. Here's what you do day to day with some of these challenging behaviors. Here's some of the mistakes that folks tend to make, uh, how you can avoid it so that you don't have to learn trial by fire like I did. Uh, yeah, I've worked with thousands of folks with dementia, so that was hard earned. All those lessons for sure. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm curious, Pam, what would you say to any caregivers who uh, are considering joining the workshop, or just starting their journey, just are nervous to learn things about how to be a better dementia caregiver?
I would say educate yourself as much as you can. Learn about dementia as much as you can. Read books, sign up for classes, whether you need them or not. Um, the Alzheimer's Association has local little classes that you can take, or meetings or whatever they have in your area, and go to those. Meet people who are in the same situation, or maybe their people are a little further along than yours or whatever. But making all these connections and having people that you can talk to, I think is highly important.
Yeah, definitely. Because I'm sure you'd agree, Pam. I think what a lot of people don't realize is the media does an absolutely terrible job of telling people what they're in for. Is you is the, it's you're not It's not like having someone who's a little forgetful with you. It's you're taking over this person's entire life,
Yep.
like we were saying before, their medical decisions, their financial decisions. You're helping them with showering, with eating, with
Mhm.
you need people who get it, and you need definitely as much support as you can get, and that takes time. And again, the earlier you're able to build up that support, whether that be, man, that's broad. Like folks in your life,
Mhm.
along with being a dementia caregiver, especially earlier on,
Yeah.
is to outsource to people because they don't even have to be by you. But golly, even like as you're getting maybe towards the middle of years, it's I know it's scary to open up, but just talking to them and just saying like, "Hey, would you mind picking up our groceries while you're getting your own groceries?" Just so that's one less chore for you to do. And yeah, I don't know, Pam. What are some things that you guys have done as far as reaching out for support that's worked for you guys?
Um, well, my dad has gotten better about asking us, for help. Because he needs a break. He's older also, and being able to have time away and just to have your own thoughts without having to, watch after somebody else also. And it's just nice to have a little bit of time to yourself, because we all like time to ourselves anyway. And then
Yeah,
when you're giving, there is no time to yourself. And so it's just nice to be able to get away, get out of the house, go do something without somebody with you or asking you a million questions. So, and
yeah,
then, so my sister and I have been helping out quite a lot with that. And, there's days when I'm like, I can't even believe you were doing this by yourself. come you
Mm,
didn't earlier? And I don't want to sound like I'm being mean because I'm not. It was like I didn't know we were at this stage because you didn't say.
yeah,
And I don't know if you don't tell me.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that could be probably one of the biggest lessons you and your
Yeah.
family could pass on to other folks is that, there's people in your life and people in the caregiver community in general that care and they want to support you and they want to help you. Uh, in the workshop, the chat was crazy, but man, that's like a whole source of valuable information within itself.
Mhm.
Just people sharing their tips and people sharing their wins. The reason why the workshop's a bunch of like 3 days, the reason for that's very intentional. And the reason for that is because we want you to take, let's say, a small tip from the first day, implement it between the day one and day two, and share that win and be able to really not just like consume information, but really be able to apply it and results in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because in the workshop, I think that's when you also talked about like plate color.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Not eat
yeah, for sure. So if anybody is struggling with getting your person with dementia to eat more, like if you're concerned about them eating more, one reason why they may not be is so something, and this is something that's not talked about a lot with dementia, but clearly, it's a huge issue because literally every time I've brought this up in the workshop or I've shared this in a video, the video has always gone super viral. But so this person's senses change. So if when you get dementia, your vision, your taste, your feeling of touch, hearing, everything, all those senses shift. Like your balance gets worse. You get more like tunnel vision type stuff. Like it's hard for you to see contrast, so different color. So for example, if you put like a beige food on like a white plate, it makes it very difficult for them to see the food, and that is a pretty common reason why our folks with dementia won't eat is they simply won't be able to see it very well. It'll be hard for them to like they'll get kind of embarrassed trying to like aim the fork or aim like their hand and just like miss it. So they just act like they're not hungry. So what can fix it is a red plate. So if you put, let's say, like mashed potatoes against a red plate, it's super easy now for them to see the mashed potatoes. So that's the red plate theory, and in a nutshell, is really working into adapt needs, the changing needs of someone with dementia.
Yeah. And I think another thing that nobody really talks about either is some of the little health issues that they get. It seems like more women end up with UTIs and because they're not drinking enough water. And is all they'll say is that they don't feel well or their tummy hurts or, whatever. We took my mom to the hospital and she had a huge, terrible UTI. And of course, it was because she wasn't drinking enough fluids or water. But that's the other challenge is to get them to drink the water. So we've started trying to flavor it so it tastes like something different. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a great tip. Additionally too, if you don't necessarily want to put like artificial sweeteners or whatever in the drinks, there's water bottles you can get on Amazon that have a like a smell specific, like, so I know this sounds weird, but your sense of taste and your sense of smell are very interconnected. So if there's some water bottles that because it's scented as like lemon or cranberry or whatever, and you go to drink it, because your nose picks up that smell, it almost like tricks your taste buds into like tasting that in the water. So even though in reality they're drinking plain water, like they'll perceive it as like tasting something tastier. So that's a decent tip too for anybody who's having a hard time getting their loved one to drink. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess any last thoughts or any last tips for any caregivers watching?
No, I guess just be diligent on keeping track of their health because they
Mm.
don't drink a lot of water. Sometimes they don't eat their food. Um, because it's easy to, I guess, not pay attention to the amount of water that they drink and try and get them to drink more. Um, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to tell people when you're in public. Um, because we've started really doing that a lot more. Because my mom will say all kinds of things. She'll be like, "Wow, that girl's kind of fat." And it's like, what? you
Oh,
know?
man.
So, I mean, you just can't be responsible for what comes out of their mouth. And so, it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, she has dementia." She didn't mean what she said. So, and just letting your loved ones know that you really do need help, even if it's helping wash clothes, do laundry, whatever, it takes to babysit them maybe for a little bit or something like that, just so you can get a little personal time too.
Yeah. Oh, Fallen Angel Gamer says, my father-in-law is borderline failure to thrive. Is there any tricks I can hopefully get him to eat or drink? Yeah, so I don't know if you were here when we were talking about this, Fallen Angel Gamer, but we were talking about like how you can buy water bottles that have like a scent that tricks them into thinking they're tasting like flavored water when they're really drinking plain water or just flavoring the water, period. At the workshop, again, I don't know if you were here at the beginning, Fallen Angel Gamer, we are hosting a free dementia workshop on Zoom. You can sign up at dementiasuccesspath.com, same name as this channel, just .com, uh, for a workshop where we're going over all this. We're starting next Tuesday, April 22nd at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. But anyways, yeah, so getting the water bottle and also I know we were just talking about the red plate
Mhm.
theory where contrasting the colors between the food and the plate really helps. Sometimes just having smaller portions on the plate can help too, because sometimes they can get overwhelmed by the amount of food in front of them. Maybe having more finger foods. Sometimes they're struggling to remember how to use the utensils, can sometimes be an issue. Or, excuse me, putting the food that you're making, let's say in a container, like the fast food container of their preferred fast food, even to trick them into
Mhm.
thinking your homemade food is from the restaurant they like.
Yep,
Uh, so, anyways, hopefully those are a few tips that you could take with you, Fallen Angel Gamer, that can help with your father-in-law, uh, getting him to eat and drink more. It's definitely a process for sure, figuring it out, and then of course, right as you figured it out, they change again.
they do.
I
We
know.
do is like a cat, it's kind of like, because first my mom loves ice cream. And so my dad went and bought a bunch of ice cream because, if you can't get her to eat anything, at least she'll eat some ice cream. And um, it was kind of like, oh, now we have all this ice cream and now all of a sudden she doesn't like ice cream. So, it's kind of like a pet. I swear my cats are like, oh, you have this kind of flavor in there? Well, then we've decided we don't like it. So,
Yeah.
one
Yeah,
of
that's
those.
why it's so important to have, like, multiple tools in your toolbox so that, let's say, maybe something was working Monday, if it's not working Wednesday, you got something else in your toolbox to pull out of.
Yeah.
There's always a solution for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Pam, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your family's experience, your tips, your thoughts on the workshop. Again, if you guys are interested, our free dementia workshop, three key dementia do's and don'ts on Zoom is starting next week. It goes from April 22nd to the 24th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can sign up at dementiasuccesspath.com. So again, same name as this channel, just with .com. That's where you can sign up. Uh, and in this replay too, I'm going to have the link in the description as well. So, again, Pam, thank you so much for joining. And yeah, hopefully we'll chat again really soon. All right. Bye, guys.